All right, so we got Big Dom with us, and he's going to go ahead and give us a few interesting stories about his international travel. I think he's going to go ahead and start us off with a couple stories about his travels to Brazil that everybody thinks is so wonderful and beautiful. So go ahead with that one, Big Dom.
Yeah, so we went to Pan Am's. It was in Brazil. I can't remember what town. It wasn't Rio where the Olympics were, so I was really excited. I'm like, oh yeah, Brazil, on a beach, and it was just like, no, this wasn't it. So we get there and we're practicing in like a parking garage, and I'm like, what is this? So like they had the mat set up in a parking garage, like different levels, and you're like, all right, I guess this you could do it. And honestly, Kyle Snyder didn't want to drill with me the whole time. He's like, yeah, you're too big. And I was like, what? So for a week, I didn't even drill. I just did stance in motion in Brazil in a parking garage, which is pretty weird. And the day before the tournament, we're heading over for a workout, and I see like 30 fire trucks in Brazil, and I'm like, what's going on here? They're like, people start coming down from the arena to the parking garage area. Get out, get out, get out. And I'm like, all right, whatever. The building caught on fire. Some foreigner put too much water and had their Bluetooth speaker in there and was just doing crazy stuff. And next thing you know, the sauna was on fire in the building. And I was like, what? This is like the Pan Am Games. Like, this is a big deal. And I'm just like, what in the world? So for like the next day and a half, they didn't know where we were going to have the tournament. And it was insane. And long story short, we end up having the tournament in that arena. It smelled like straight burnt wood the entire time. The AC was out. So I was sweating the entire time. I think I drank 2 gallons of water. I literally remember walking around in my underwear the entire time, like just walking around. I didn't know what these people were saying about me, but I really didn't care. I was just like, it's hot, smells like burnt wood. Like, I just don't get what's going on around here. So yeah. And on top of that, every tournament you go to for wrestling, bathrooms are disgusting, but this will top everything you can ever think of. Is, I'm just trying to go pee. I drank 2 gallons of water. And I go in there. I'm like, this smells terrible. It smells worse than the burnt wood. They don't flush toilet paper or anything there, so you're just going to go take a pee, and you see toilet paper with poop all over it, and you're just like, what? And I'm legit trying to get ready for Pan Am finals against a guy that I lost to before. I've beaten before, but it's just a big match, and I'm just like, there's poop everywhere around here, and it smells like burnt wood. Like, I don't know how you get ready to be a Pan Am champ, but yeah, I somehow won at the last second, and then I got the heck out of there as quick as I could.
So how did Brazil compare to some of the other places you've been? First of all, the list of places you've been is, go ahead.
Let me try to think. Last place I went to was Cuba, which was, they're still stuck in the 60s there. So, everybody's driving 1960s cars, and, you just really appreciate everything. I've been to, Ukraine. That was probably the worst trip ever, just because it was cold. I felt like I was in a Rocky movie, and you had to walk down this huge hill just to even get to the tournament. And it was just like, I remember at one point they asked me to help carry water, and I had all this water in my hand, and I'm walking up the hill, and it's -2 degrees, and there's like 4 inches of snow. And I was like, this is not the move. Like, not what I want to be doing. So that was a good one that I did not like. Went to Canada a couple times. Turkey, I like Turkey. I wrestled in like 3 tournaments there. So that's been fun. I've been to France a lot. Bulgaria, Azerbaijan was really, really cool. It was a great arena.
A story from your high school days on these trips?
Yeah, so I've won. We went on a big international tour. Coach Hag and the Godfather, Matt Cox, took us. And we went to the first week we went to Bulgaria. And I just remember being in Bulgaria, like, okay, yeah, this is cool. And we're getting ready to wrestle a duel, and I don't really know what's going on. They're just like, we're just gonna find some guy, you're gonna wrestle him. I'm like, okay. And being the little cocky, arrogant guy I was like, well, I'm gonna put on a show because I don't know who these people are. I'm never gonna see them again. And so I wrestled this guy. He wasn't that good in the first period. This is back when there was 2 periods. I 5'd the guy, and I'm like, heck yeah, sweet. And Cox was like, hey, all right, don't do that again. If not, they're gonna send somebody good after you. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And I 5'd this kid again. So we go along on the tour at a different part of a town, and we're getting ready for this duel. And this huge, monstrous guy looked like he was the dude in Rocky IV. And I was like, who the heck is this guy? And they're like, Cox, like, that's the guy you're going to have to wrestle. Well, I'm like, nah, they're not going to put that guy against me. Well, sure enough, that was the dude I had to wrestle. And I was like scared for my life. And he was like their university champ or their world team guy. And I was 17. And 2-piece singlets just came out, and I had one. I don't know why I had one. And I'm wearing it, and he looks at me, and he grabs my shirt before I even step out there. And he goes, slaps me on my chest like I'm some scrub. And I'm just like, oh, my God. And I'm, like, scared for my life. And I just somehow – it was the clinch, and I somehow just kind of played possum and stayed away from the guy. And he tried to lock on me, and I scored on him. And then the next period, he actually shot on me, and I threw him to his back, and he was actually pinned, and they wouldn't call it. So anyways, I win the match. And afterwards, this guy throws a fit. He literally picks the ref up by his suit jacket and his belt and picks him up in the air, and I'm like, oh, my God. And I just literally take off. I think I ran a 4-2 that day. And I ran behind Cox, and I'm just like, this is your fault. You should have told me that this was going to happen. And, yeah, so pretty much long story short, there was a riot. Like, he legit was throwing the ref around. People were coming out of stands. So we legit run to the bus, and I'm on the bus, like, scared for my life, like, sweating. I still have this ugly New Mexico 2-piece on. I'm like, first off, I'm like, Coach Hag, why'd you even give me this 2-piece? Like, I don't understand that. And we're just sitting on there, and the guy comes back towards our bus. He apologizes to me, tells us to come back in. So we come back in, and the dude takes a picture with me. And there's a picture of me on Facebook with like a 2-piece top on, and he's raised my hand, and he's like, exchange clothes and shoes. And I was like, nah, I'm not giving you my shoes. So just gave him all these clothes I had, but it was crazy. And then the second part of this trip is the second week we went to France, and nobody wanted to wrestle us, so we just kind of hung out in Paris. So the last night, they're like, we're just hanging out, and France is playing Brazil in the World Cup, and they beat them in the semis, and they make it to the finals of the World Cup. So I didn't really know what the World Cup was. I just thought it was cool. Like, the only thing I remember is, when the girls won and Brandi Chastain took her shirt off, she was flexing in her bra. That's all I remember. And this actually happened. That I just remember looking out the hotel window, and people were taking their TVs and smashing them out the window of this hotel. And everybody was like drinking wine and like smashing the bottles. And so being a high school kid that I was, I just remember running around this town for 2 hours, just like screaming at people like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm just going to, I just ran around like a crazy kid. And we left at 7 a.m. the next day. There was cars flipped over. There's people passed out in the streets like this. And we're on a big tour bus trying to get to the airport. And I'm like, man, I just want to go home. Like, I've been to Bulgaria. I almost died by this big guy. We're in France, and these people are partying. I literally just want to go home and sleep in my bed. I'm going to be a high school senior. I got football practice, like trying to get ready for Fargo. And, man, it was crazy. It was like the coolest trip ever.